we see this group of outsiders coming in. We don't know what their intentions are. They can be nice, they can say all of these things, but there's also the possibility that they come and they destroy the country, they give us smallpox, they come and they rape all of our women, right?
Do you really believe that?
In the UK right now, there are a lot of Pakistani rape gangs, are there not?
No, I don't think so. Okay, I
Body
think I
like a
got it.
bag of Takis. Oh man.
I
Spokojnie, please. Okay.
It's gonna be fine. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me. Actually, you
Yeah.
offered to talk to me, so
I
thank you
did.
for
I
that.
reached out to you, yeah. No, I saw that someone said that you made a video about me and I checked you out. And I've actually seen your videos before.
Really?
Because when I came here, I was researching Polish YouTubers that speak English. So I saw your video with Passport Bros, which we can get into because I have a similar video actually, and we talk about very similar points, believe it or not. And then I saw your video about the Americans with Polish heritage.
Oh yeah, that's
And then I saw a little bit of you explaining Polish history to Danny. So
okay.
I wanted
Wow.
to get familiar with your content. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you know where I'm coming from, more or less. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if you
exactly.
fully understood what I was talking about as watching your videos, because I know that your Polish is
Right.
not perfect yet, and we're also gonna talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that. But also, I just started a podcast with my co-host who's also English speaking, so we were talking about
Okay.
you too. So,
Oh, okay.
but
I imagine probably not good things.
we made the same basically points that I made during my stream. So I think we're gonna go through all those points today. And so I'm really glad you're open to this conversation, even
Yeah, of
though
course.
you know I basically shat on you a little bit in my video.
A little bit. The whole 20 minutes of you shitting on me. But that's
Just
okay.
20 minutes.
But I didn't get offended by it because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the arguments that you were making or what I understood were not what I actually believe. I think you were
Okay.
just attacking what you thought I believed, right? So I thought it was important that we come and have a conversation so we can kind of talk about it. Because I think you're gonna find that I'm actually here in Poland, I'm very centrist. And I think we probably agree on like 80% of stuff. I think we
Probably.
probably disagree on maybe some of the solutions and because of our different backgrounds, but maybe we
Mm-hmm.
can get into that.
Yeah, I think you may underestimate how left-leaning I am, and that's like, but
Ooh.
that's why I
Okay.
may disagree with your centrist views too. But
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
sure.
still glad that you're open to it,
Of course. Same.
and yeah, I think I watched only two of your videos, so it's possible
Right.
that I have a like a skewed perspective on, you know, I wasn't like making broad statements about who you are. I was just commenting on how you come across in those two specific videos. But before we start, maybe you want to like introduce yourself to my viewers, like why
Okay, yeah,
tell us
sure.
why did you move from LA, from what I know, to Warsaw.
Yeah, so it's a very long, crazy story. I originally left LA in 2020. I was 25 years old, right before the pandemic. So, long story short, at that time I wasn't on good terms with my family. My dad and I were fighting a lot. So he essentially gave me 1 month to leave the house. And I
Oh,
was trying to figure out what my next move would be. And I applied to be a cruise pianist because I'm a professional pianist. And then I got accepted for that. And then they said that they were going to start me on a contract around like March, April of 2020, which looking back, we know what happened, right? But so I had that contract ready. I was like, okay, perfect. So I just sold all my things. And then I was going to go on vacation for a bit. And then when my contract was ready, I was going to come back and take off, right? So I was deciding on which places to go. I really loved Latin America because I always wanted to learn Spanish. That was actually my main reason why I picked Colombia, because Colombia and Mexico have the nicest Spanish accents. And Colombia, they say, is the best because it kind of sounds like singing. And I don't like the Spanish like from Spain. I think their accent's kind of ugly, but that's not important.
oh yeah,
But
offend
yeah,
even more
so
people, Wes. Doing
hey, yo,
good.
you already think that I'm like a racist and a
Of course.
misogynist, so I got nowhere to go from here, right? So I might as well just be racist to everybody. So when I was thinking about where I was gonna go, I got a notification at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm normally not awake that early, but it was like a one-way ticket to Bogota in Colombia for like 180 bucks. And I was like, wow, okay. I wanted to go to Latin America. Sounds perfect. So I went and I was in Colombia for a couple months. I went to Bogota, didn't like it. Went to Medellin, I really loved it. And then after a couple months, COVID happened. So I just got stuck there. Then so they canceled my cruise contract, and I had no job. I didn't know what I was gonna do. So I started teaching English, and then I started my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel progressively grew. And for the first 2 years, I was making more money producing music because my music has been on like TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And then now I've gotten to the point where YouTube is my full-time job. And content creation is not easy, which is why I respect what you're doing a lot because streaming for freaking 6 to 8 hours in a day is a lot. I don't know how you do it.
To be
It's
honest,
very
it's
impressive
just
what you.
it's just twice a week. It's not every day.
Oh, okay.
It's to be honest, I find making YouTube videos much more difficult. That's why I switched to streaming. It has its different challenges because being live is
Sure.
different, but also like
Yes.
writing a script and then like performing the script was
Yes.
for me it was very overwhelming. So I think it's just it depends on what you're best suited for. And also I do comics like it's my main job. It's my 9 to 5,
Yeah.
so to say. So it's just twice a week for
Uh,
but for 8 hours,
no,
yes.
what I find very interesting about a lot of creatives and content creators is we don't just do one thing. We're usually in multiple fields, right? For you, it's drawing. For me, it's music, and we're both doing content creation. And I don't think that's a coincidence, right? I think it's kind of the same skills.
It's
So
also a creative job, yes. So, wow, I didn't know
yes,
you're a
and oh,
pianist. It's,
yeah. And a lot of my videos on my YouTube channel got famous in Poland because I was talking about Polish music, but because of my professional music background, I would break down the music, what instruments that they used, and then and then now I'm trying to incorporate, and I'm gonna make this into Instagram content. Me playing piano covers of like Polish music, and then me breaking down the music, giving them a rating. So that's. But anyways,
yeah, I think I saw one of your thumbnails, like when you were commenting on like Zbigniew Wodecki, I think, or some Polish
yeah,
artist, but I didn't know
yeah.
that you actually have a background because there's a lot of content like that, like foreigners
I
reacting to
know,
Polish
I know.
culture, and we like this because
Yeah,
we like the attention, you know. We're
of
a little bit
course.
of a pick me country ourselves, if
Yeah.
I may
Hey,
say
you called
so.
me pick me
Oh
too,
yes,
right? You
oh
called
I
me pick me
did.
too in your video.
I
And I'm
didn't.
gonna be honest, right? I'm gonna be honest. You got me on that one. It's true. Like I heard it and you said it. I'm like, motherfucker, she's right. I totally came off that way in that video. So
A little
I'm
bit,
like, all
but
right, that was a good one.
yeah, we can talk
Yep,
about it. Um,
sure. Yeah.
but
Well,
maybe
okay. So
let's start
yeah.
with the most inflammatory stuff. I think
Okay,
that
sure. Sure.
especially
Wait,
the
wait, so
one.
but before we get there, I just want to. So I was in Colombia. I was there for a few years,
All right.
and then I was married. Some crazy stuff happened with my ex-wife. She's not a bad person. It was just a kind of a bad situation. And then I went to Asia for a few months, and then I came to Poland. And then a lot of my friends told me about Poland, how great it is, especially for Asian guys, which I think I would love to talk about in the future. And then I really loved it, and then I've been here ever since. So that's how I got
Which
here to
country
Poland.
in Asia?
Well, my family is Chinese, but originally from the Philippines. So I was in the Philippines for a bit. I was in Vietnam for a bit and Thailand for a bit.
Oh,
But I don't like the Southeast Asian vibe, and the language barrier is really big. Even though I blend in physically, I don't understand what everyone else is saying. So I kind of felt like a foreigner there too.
yeah, that must have been a weird feeling, right? To not stand out like physically, visually, but then
Yeah.
culturally.
But I mean, Europeans, you guys kind of have that too, right? Like if you were to go to maybe Germany or Russia or Ukraine, they wouldn't think you're Polish, right?
Yeah, probably. But then when they know the stereotypes, you know, they affect how people treat you for sure. But so you're telling me that it's more Asian friendly here in Poland, some of the countries that you visited?
Yeah. So something that I don't know. You spent some time in the States, right? If I'm not
A
wrong. I
week.
wanted to learn a little bit from you first. Oh, a week? Oh. So something you don't know about the US is that there's kind of a ranking system for like races and men and women, right? So like statistically, they look on Tinder and Asian women do the best and white men do the best. And then black women do the worst and Asian men do the worst. And we're kind of seen as like lower class especially the men in a lot of these American places, because a lot of American media has only showed Asian guys as like weak, as dorks, as like the butt of the like they showed us as jokes essentially, like we're not serious men. So a lot of girls would not want to date us because of it's like bad, low status to date an Asian guy. And if you see a lot of like Asian guy, white girl couples, especially in the US, the comment section is crazy. It's just like, oh, he must have a lot of money. How did he pull her? Just like super racist stuff. And then you come here to Poland, or just like most of Eastern Europe. I know you guys are not Eastern Europe, but like Eastern Europe, because
We are.
Slavs and Asian people, yeah. Thank you for saying that. I agree. But Slavs and Asian people, we have a lot of connected history, right? That goes back to
Of
the
course.
Mongols. And I think because of that, we're very familiar with each other, which is why a lot of our values are similar and why a lot of Polish girls have no problem dating Asian guys. And I think the parents, a lot of Polish parents are kind of okay with Asian guys too, maybe compared to other races. I might be wrong, but
Yeah, I believe you completely with the stereotypes, especially around dating. What's weird to me a little bit is how you center this whole conversation about dating. Like you talk about like the scale of racism, and it's always in context of dating. And I see some, the lingo like high value man and low value man. I feel like this is all internet culture. I'm sure that you experienced it like in real life in the US, and I believe that the
sure.
stereotypes can be harmful, but this centering the conversation around dating, especially with those very specific like terms, feels
Mhm.
a little red pilly for me. Do you identify
Sure.
at all with the red pill community on the internet?
I definitely went through a phase. I think a lot of guys go through a phase where they consume a lot of red pill content, right? But then as you grow up and you mature, you realize that a lot of the red pill content is fueled by rage. A lot of these creators are goobers. And you're right. A lot of passport bros, like the ones you broke down in your video, are fucking dorks. And the way that they portray women in other countries is ridiculous. And it's like they're selling this fantasy. And you know that they were losers back at home. So it's just like this weird behavior that they're showing. In regards to like high value man, low value man, I don't know if I've said that in my videos and the ones that you were reacting to.
I
'Cause
think
I
you said
don't.
it just now when you were describing like US standards around men and Asian men. You said
Oh,
like
I
they're
no.
high
Well, I
status,
said
maybe high status, not
okay, yeah,
value,
but
okay?
that's different. But
Yeah,
that's different. But
okay.
then and then also, I just meant it in terms of like preferences, right? Because they just use dating apps as like the preferences to see who was the most attractive by race and who was for women and for men. So I was just pretty much stating what they did on the studies, right? So I didn't say anything
Sure.
about like,
I
oh,
know
this is a higher.
this is the part of the problem with racism in the US. Like definitely I think it is the hardest for like black women, right? Like there
Yes.
are so many awful stereotypes about that, and I I definitely agree with you about stereotypes around Asian men. But do
Yeah.
you think, yeah, like the decision to move to Poland was mostly influenced by this view on
The
Asian?
desire to date?
Yeah, it sounds
Um,
like that.
well, I don't know if it sounds like that. I don't think my content reflects that because
No,
when
just
I
just
talk
based
about
on what you
dating,
just
maybe like,
said, because you said you were in Asia, then you heard that Poland is very Asian friendly, and when I asked you what do you mean,
oh,
you
whoa,
said
whoa,
that
whoa,
it,
whoa, 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 whoa. But I didn't like Asia not because of dating. It was
okay.
because I just didn't like the lifestyle there, right? I'm different than a lot of like these passport bros because I believe, and I tell like my friends this all the time. I have a lot of guys that want to go to these countries, get a girl, and then she's the trad wife, and then bring her back to the U.S. And you made a point in your video, which I agree with. It's like, how do you expect a traditional woman who's family oriented to get up and leave her family and move with you to this new country where she knows nobody in like a completely different environment? That's super unrealistic. My approach is like I want to pick a place where I enjoy living there. I like the culture. I love Polish culture, and I can talk about the reasons why I love living here actually. And I make that clear in my videos too. And the women, I'm not gonna lie, is definitely a part of it, but it's not the main part of it. And this is why I think like we have to be careful when we lump all passport bros together because there are a lot of guys that do travel just for the women. I have a lot of friends like that, unfortunately. They've been here 3 or 4 years. They don't learn the language. All they do every weekend is go out to Nuance or to, Zlati Terase and then just day game and try to talk to girls all day long. That definitely exists, right? And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing traveling to find a good partner either, right? I think finding a good partner is the most important decision that you can make in your life. And if you have the opportunity to enhance your opportunities and be with better partners, doesn't that make sense to do that? I think anybody would do that,
It's
right?
not necessarily wrong. I just think like this idea that you're gonna find someone more fitting to you abroad is often rooted in like very untrue views on said country, and it sometimes can be
That's true. You're right.
also connected to some discriminatory views on women in said countries. So it's not
You're
bad
right. Yeah, totally.
in itself. I believe it's very strange to me because I believe that it's not like people in different countries definitely have some qualities that are consequence of their culture, but I believe that you don't have to move to another country to find someone you like. It shouldn't be that hard, and if it is, it's a very scary reality. So maybe
This is yeah. Sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
no, I just wanted to ask you, so what do you look for in a woman then?
Okay. Well, so you touched on a couple of points. I think it's very like a lot of guys when we hear that, especially from girls, right? We take it a certain way because I don't think a lot of girls understand how hard it is to really be attractive to women. To like build an interesting lifestyle, have the confidence to go up to a girl, handle constant rejection all the time, and like that process is not fun. And so when you say like you shouldn't have to go to another country to find a partner, but I'm like, yeah, but I think as a girl, it's a little easier to find a partner. Well, actually, no. I take that back because I think the problem that girls have nowadays is maybe you have a lot of options, but a lot of them are shit, and there's a lot of bad guys out there. So maybe it's hard for you guys too, right? But then the problem that men have is that most men have zero options. Nobody in our DMs, nothing, right? So as a response, they go online and they see all these passport bros making content about, oh, you can find a hot, submissive wife or whatever the fuck that means. And then go into these countries and then they find out that the reality is definitely not like that.
Wes,
So
first
I
of
feel like I had
all,
to say that.
just looking at my chat and their reaction to you, I find it very hard to believe that you really experienced such rejection and such a failure rate talking to women. It's just
Well,
feels.
okay. Well, this is actually I'm glad that you said that, which is I think that everywhere that I've been able to travel, fuck, this is gonna sound super braggy, but but I've been able I've been able to talk to girls, right? So that's why like when you make the point at me that like I traveled to Poland just for the girls, but I'm like, but then I could have done that anywhere, right?
Yeah, so that
Then
proves my point, right? Like it's not that hard.
that what?
You don't have a problem with it with finding girls that want to date you, right?
Right. But that's not the main reason why I moved, right?
Yeah, I know,
One
but
of the
you're
big
still
reasons why I
talking
moved.
about this problem. I don't see that problem, and you don't see it. So maybe the guys on Reddit just are just doing something wrong. I also don't find it
Well,
very. I also don't find it very hard to talk to girls, and I think it's just many people do it so wrong. Like I, f-
right.
it, I hate this culture of just picking up some random people in a bar or in a club or on the
Yeah, me
street,
too.
like
Yeah.
pickup lines and dating just random
Yeah.
people. I feel like you should
So
just
cringe. I
when
know.
you make
No.
connections like naturally throughout your life based on your interests, based on your mutual friends, then it just grows naturally. Like friendships grow into
Right.
relationships, and it's much easier, at least I find it much easier, like when you base your relationship on a true connection that you build organically and not just like trying so hard to pick someone up.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And it
It's not
also
like
your
how do guys meet
experience,
these girls though?
but how
How
do
do
you meet
how do
girls?
I just I just live my life. I talk to
Yeah,
people on the street, sometimes in my
that's
building. But okay, it's okay. I was merely speaking on behalf of a lot of guys that feel invisible in this conversation, right? And I don't know if that necessarily represents me. Well, it's tricky because maybe I look like this now, right? And maybe the chat likes me. That's cool. But when I was younger, I was the shortest guy in my class until I was a junior in high school. You know, as a woman, that women care about height a lot. So no one paid any attention to me at all until I got to like like a reasonable height. But I'm not even that tall. I'm like 5'7", right? So I experienced what it was like being invisible to women. I could try to be friends with them, and then be this good guy and all that stuff. At the end of the day, do you want to be in a relationship with me? Then you get friend zoned. And this is the experience for a lot of guys, right? So,
And a lot of girls too. To be honest, listen,
oh,
I know
you're right. You're right. You're probably
I
right.
don't care
Yeah,
about
yeah,
height
you're
at all. I know a lot of women too, and a lot of guys care about weight, for example. And I
right.
know
Yeah,
a lot of
totally.
people that are both short guys or fat girls, and they are happily in love. And I think the problem with this
Sure.
attitude is that love is not a numbers game. And it's a different situation when you
Mm,
expect a lot of people to be attracted to you. So you have this whole like base of people to choose from, and it's a different
yeah.
thing when you expect just to find someone that will like you and you will like them, and it will happen even if you're not like the most conventionally attractive person in the world. So I think the expectations are the true problem with this community that you say
That's probably
yourself you
true.
don't fully identify with, because I too, I
But
wasn't
yeah,
attractive as a young girl. I was bullied in school, and I was the
mm,
ugly girl in school. So I know it can be painful, but
it
I don't
sucks,
I
right? Yeah.
don't base my whole personality on it as an adult, because
Yeah. Yeah.
the glow up is a one thing, but also like the experience that you gain through life. I don't remember, how old are you as?
I'm 30,
Oh,
and
okay,
you're
yeah, so
31, correct?
32. But yeah, so we have
Ah,
pretty much the
who's
same
counting?
experience, right? Well, the
Right.
government it's in my papers, but yeah.
Oh,
Um, but still,
right,
now,
right.
I think now in your adult life that it's something more to finding a partner than just being
Sure.
conventionally attractive to the most number of people possible. So I don't know,
But
why do you
yeah,
identify so much with this community, that I don't feel
uh,
like you represent yourself and you
but I
don't
don't.
believe in
I
it?
never said I identify with the
Okay.
community. You were the one that accused me of that.
I
And then when you
just
accused me of that, I said that no, I mean kind of because I went through a phase, but a lot of my points are in agreement with you,
you
right?
seem
I
to
don't think I ever
cater.
said I was red pill.
No, no, but I feel, yeah, like you cater to that community a lot. You're like find you seem to understand them, find excuses, and if I dig a little bit deeper, I find out that you don't really agree with a lot of this stuff. Like, so I
Okay.
don't know if
Well,
it's like if you just
how do you think? Okay, so let's unpack what you last said. So what do you think that I say that's like enabling them, or I guess like supporting them, or I forgot how you framed it, but what do you think that I'm doing and
cater. I
saying that's
feel,
like
yeah, like you
yeah
cater to them in
yeah
some ways.
yeah? How do I do that?
For example, right now when we were talking and you were just explaining to me why men would want to move to the countries with like when their chances of finding a woman are higher, I feel like you're finding excuses for men to
Well, I didn't defend them. I just
okay,
simply stated that I know a lot of guys that are doing that. I didn't
okay.
think I said that I supported or I was against them. I just stated that that was a thing.
Yeah, I feel a little confused though, but let's maybe then go to the
We
points
can yeah
that I got,
yeah sure sure
because
sure
right
sure.
now we
The
are
the question
just
that you asked me about the what do I look for in a woman? We can start
all
there
right.
if you like. Okay, so I look for a woman in the kitchen making me a sandwich 24/7.
Okay, okay, okay.
No, yeah, okay. I want to be with someone who's open-minded, because I'm quite an open-minded person. I value intelligence a lot. Like for me, banter, being able to banter back and forth with your partner is like the deepest form of intimacy for me, especially because like I speak for a living and I find that communication is like my strength. So if I can find a woman that matches me on like that level, and I've met a couple of women like that in my life, that to me is very attractive. I believe that a woman or both of us should remain physically attractive for the other person. I think that's if one of the agreements in a relationship is we're going to be sexually exclusive to each other. That means that I, as a man, have to be the most sexually attractive to my woman, and vice versa. I would expect that in return, right? I want to be with someone that I can be myself with. One of the issues about my ex-wife, who was very religious, and that was kind of an issue. Maybe we can talk about that later. But I felt like I had to hide a lot of parts of myself from her because if she found out, she would tell him the church, and then that's kind of what happened anyways. And it just caused a lot of issues. So for me, it's very important to be able to be myself with my partner and then be able to express myself and be vulnerable and not have it used against me in the future. I think a lot of guys have had an experience where they open up to a woman and then when they're fighting, she uses it against him. And then after that experience, the guys are like, nah, fuck all women, right? I will never trust another woman again. And I think that's what leads to a lot of this red pill rage because scared dogs bite. And a lot of these angry red pillars are just angry dogs or scared dogs because they don't want to be hurt again, you know? So that's very important to me. And since I'm going to be in Poland, right, I would like her to be Polish. But she doesn't have to be full Polish. She can be half something else, right? I think the ideal situation would be like half Vietnamese, half Polish, because so she can understand the Asian side of my culture. And then I can, since I'm here in Poland and trying to learn the language and the culture, then it would be like a mutual, it would just be less friction because I don't have to explain a lot of my Asian culture to her, even though I think Polish culture and a lot of East Asian cultures are very compatible. That's pretty much it, you know? Like,
I
I
think
don't
then
feel like that list is
Warsaw is
crazy.
good to you then because there are a lot of like Vietnamese Polish people here in Warsaw because of the
Yes, right.
huge wave of migration in like 70s 80s. So it's like the
Yeah.
second third generation, they're fully Polish but with Vietnamese background. It seems like
Yes,
something
right.
you are looking for, but also
Could be.
why
It could
it's
be.
important for you to her to be Polish? Like it's just easier to live in
Yeah.
Poland when someone knows the language, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, right, yeah. So one of the reasons why I don't really date Ukrainians or Belarusians that much is because like if I'm gonna be here in Poland, I'm making content in Polish. It would make sense for my partner to also be Polish, right? Like if I get with a Ukrainian or a Belarusian, I would have to learn a different culture, a different language. It would just make things more complicated. And also with my ex-wife, because she came from Colombia, which her passport wasn't that strong. Because I travel for work, I would want to be with someone that has an EU passport. So it makes it a lot easier to travel to places. Because when I would want to bring her with me on my travels, we would always have to go through headaches with visa stuff. So we had issues with that when we wanted to go on our honeymoon. We had to postpone it. It was a lot of issues. So it doesn't have to be Polish, but it just kind of makes the
Okay, I
most sense, right?
just so you know, I feel like a lot of Ukrainian girls speak English, so I don't see the problem here. Also, most of them speak Polish too, just with an accent. So I don't think it's really a
Sure, sure,
problem.
sure.
And like, and all the stuff with the
Yeah.
passport, bro, just find a girl and then you're gonna figure it out. It's really, don't look for
Okay, okay,
someone with a
okay, okay.
good
But
passport.
no, but I'm saying this as someone who went through all of that already,
Okay,
right?
I get it.
I had, and then I saw how much of a headache it was and how much issues it caused, and going to Ukrainians, right? But it's not just about the language; it's also about culture.
The culture.
Ukrainian culture is very different than Polish culture, right? That's something that I'm learning a lot being here, and that's why a lot of Polish people have frustrations with the Ukrainians that are living here. Because I agree with you, there are a lot of Ukrainians that speak Polish. There's a lot of them that don't. There's a lot of them that are here. A lot of the rich ones refuse to speak Polish, only speak
Oh,
Russian or
yeah.
Ukrainian,
Yeah, let's talk about
and
that.
they're
It's
not.
actually on my
Yeah,
list of one of the
right.
questions for you because one of
Sure.
the things that pissed me off that I was ranting about when I was watching your videos was the anecdote that you told about how you met like two guys that were working at Biedronka and didn't know the
Oh
language.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
feel it's offensive like to the country that they live in and that you make the effort because you have private lessons 3 times a week to learn Polish.
Mm,
And I just wanted to ask you if you can see like your privilege, the privilege that it takes to be able to have money and time to go to a
sure,
private lessons 3 times a week. And maybe
sure,
like
sure, sure.
it seemed obvious to me that if you're working at Biedronka instead of making YouTube videos like us, it might be even harder. And even you, like going to three
Right.
private lessons a week, you are not fully able to speak Polish fluently yet. So you know it's
You're right.
hard.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Right. Okay. So let me speak on that. When I said that in my video, I didn't mean it as a way to be like, oh, look at me, I'm taking lessons, right? That wasn't my intention. I know how protective Polish people are of their language, right? And something that I got a lot of heat on my channel, on my videos, is when I talk about reforming the Polish language, because I say that how long is it going to be before English becomes the official language of Polish? And I joked about that. Then when I saw these workers in Biedronka not speaking Polish, and what does that mean? Like, are a lot of these stores going to be with all these foreigners, and since they don't speak Polish, is it just going to be English? And then what would be the expectation for these people working at like you're right, making YouTube videos. My Polish is not fluent yet. It's a very hard language. But working in Biedronka in Poland, isn't speaking Polish like a minimum requirement? I think, like, how would you be able to communicate with the customers if you don't speak Polish, right? So I was more from like that aspect, and wondering like, okay, is this going to be a problem in the future? You know, are foreigners just choosing not to speak Polish? Maybe we can talk about that, because I think it's very difficult for foreigners to learn. And then at what point is there like two separate societies in Poland, where you have the Polish people who speak Polish with each other, and all the foreigners who don't learn Polish and they can't really interact with the Poles, and then that's kind of where you have conflicts in countries, and that's a huge issue
I
too,
just
so.
don't really see it like that. Even though I agree that it can make problems when the Biedronka cashier don't know Polish, and there's this lady that doesn't know English and she has a problem, but I believe they have some systems put up for. I think they have it figured out in Biedronka. Like, there's another cashier that maybe translates.
Mozibich, could be.
Yeah, I don't fully agree with your prediction of like the split for two Polish societies that one doesn't even know Polish, because like me observing the countries around the world that are becoming like the spot that immigrants usually go to, they have these immigrant communities. Like in the US, a lot of people like speak Spanish in the US, right? And there's always gonna be this part of the immigrant population that doesn't know the language yet, and some of them maybe won't even learn it at all, because it's hard to learn a whole new language when you're an adult. But their children, they're definitely gonna speak the language of the country they're born in, and it always somehow it works. Maybe those guys in Biedronka, they just got here. They're really trying. They're making. I feel like you're just being unfair by assuming that they just refuse to learn. Maybe they're trying, but it's hard.
But whoa! I didn't say that they refuse to learn.
Maybe not them, but I'm sure that you use this word pretty a lot. That people just refuse to learn Polish, and I don't feel it's like it's often the case.
Well, do you have a lot of foreigner friends? How many foreigners do you know? How many of them speak Polish, percentage-wise?
I think like half of them maybe speak Polish. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's actually really good. Yeah, that surprised me.
On different level, like those living in Poland. Yeah, maybe half of them. It depends on. Some people just have it like a very. Like a talent, languages. I know a guy who's here for a year and he speaks great, but it also depends on your privilege, on how many languages you already know, because your brain is then wired to learn quicker.
That's true.
Or also how many time and money do you have. But also this Polish is then hard, and I am fully
it's so freaking hard. I hate it. It's so
everybody. Hard. Yeah, I just told you about my podcast co-host, Danny. He's getting better and better, but still we make this podcast in English. And also I know some people, I worked in game dev for a while, and game dev is full of foreigners. And yes, a lot of them, Ukrainians and Belarusians usually speak Polish great. But But people from
so out of all the foreigners that I know, if they're not Ukrainian or Russian, 95% of them don't speak Polish, and they've been here 3, 5, 6 years. I got my buddy outside. He's from Jamaica. He's been here 5 years. Doesn't speak a lick of Polish.
Yeah.
Not to put him on blast, but like but this I'm seeing this, right? So we live in different realities. We know that like two groups of people, but this is something that I'm seeing in my everyday. And then maybe I get access to a different crowd, right? Because a lot of my audience, half of my audience is Polish, but then I have a lot of foreigners living in Poland that also watch my content. But you said something interesting, because you said that you observe other countries around the world. The reason why I personally think is a problem is because I'm from Los Angeles. I spent 25 years of my life there. I knew a lot of people from all races, Mexicans, Taiwanese people, they've been in the US for like 15, 20 years, still don't speak English. I think that's unacceptable. I think if you are an immigrant in any country around the world, it's your job as an immigrant to learn that language. Full stop. And that's just the basic common respect that you can give as an immigrant. I'm a guest in this country, right? So I have to behave well like a guest. And I'm not saying you have to speak perfect Polish, right? Because we're in agreement. Polish is freaking difficult. But what makes me mad is that a lot of guys, or not guys, but a lot of people in general just don't even try. They just hear Polish is very difficult and all Poles speak English. So they're just like, I don't care. And that, I think, is a really big problem. And when it comes to like separate communities, right, it is a big issue because different communities have different values, especially when religion gets involved. So how do you get, for example, in the UK I think is a really good example. You kind of have this double society living between the Brits and then the people, the Islamic people, Pakistanis, who have been there for a couple of generations. There's a lot of those kids, they're fully British and they're into British culture, right? But the thing with like religion, especially Islam, is that a lot of religious people in general, when they don't agree with something, they always just quote the Bible or the Quran for a reason not to do that. And I know that's a big problem here in Poland too. I saw one of your videos that a lot of the conservative government, like the Catholic Church is a big problem here in Poland, and they use religion to mix into the government and then to form the society in a certain way, right? So imagine you have two societies. You have one that's Islam, you have one that's a Christian society. How can you get those two agree when religions are such deep parts of those societies?
That's actually a very interesting question, considering the history of Poland, who used to be like this hub historically for many religions, for both Muslims and Jewish people and Christians.
Yes, I've heard, yeah.
And they all got along to a point, of course, that we all know what point was it. But
That's exactly right.
you know, when I studied this topic a lot because, you know, I'm interested in politics and in societal studies.
Yeah.
So what I see in the data is that immigrants usually become more conservative and like isolated and extreme the worse their conditions of living are. So the societies that deal best with like integration of society, the societies where immigrants blend well, and then maybe children adopt more of a culture of the country while still respecting their roots, are the countries that take care of free lessons of the language, take care of like workers' rights, even for the immigrants who are undocumented, perhaps. So those extreme views and radicalisms, they grow on inequality, they grow on frustration of people. And I don't know if you know that, but most of the like terrorists around the world that are not like school shooters in US, but those people who like bombed France or something, they are usually second, third generation immigrants who saw their parents struggle and who keep struggling, and this radicalized these radical groups are the only way for them to find the way to express that frustration. So that's my solution for
Do you think that's
the
okay?
problem.
Do you think that's okay?
What
To
exactly
to
is it?
riot and to cause issues and to steal from other people because you feel justified because your position in society is low?
I don't feel
Is
it's
that okay?
okay to steal. No, of course not. But but if you ask me if protests are okay, yes. And there, of course, there's like a boundary of how can you express your anger and how you can protest. But that boundary is different for everyone. For example, some people would call me like a criminal because during the black protests in Poland, when we were protesting the abortion rights, I was like spray painting walls. So that's a violation for a lot of people, right?
Ah.
But I feel it was
Yeah,
justified.
but like here in Poland, there's graffiti everywhere, so I don't think that's an issue. Literally everywhere. I hate it.
But still, I think it was justified because the the means were maybe questionable for some, but the cause that we're fighting for is really important. And it's not even the question of what is right or what is wrong. When you're running a country, you just know that if you're not gonna take care of the safety net for people, they're gonna get frustrated and they're gonna cause troubles and the crime rates are gonna go up. It's just simple data. So it's not even question of
Okay,
what's right
that's
and
fair.
what's wrong, but how to efficiently run a country.
Okay,
But
okay. So
we went so far ahead from the original topic, and I have some like points here that I would like to address, so you can,
okay, sure.
explain yourself, because I still feel like I might have misunderstood something.
Okay, sure.
So
I love this topic though, because
I
we
know.
could talk about refugees and legal immigration. Like this would be super interesting. But go ahead,
Yeah,
continue with
I
your
also
question.
love the topic. I told you I'm interested in politics, so this is like my. Sometimes I
Your
cannot
field,
stop
yeah.
myself from talking about it.
Sure.
That's why I try to
Yeah.
stay on topic. So my next question would be about your, in my opinion, unfortunate expression. You said about someone, he's half black, half Polish, and I wonder what do you mean by that? How can you be half black, half Polish? Like, I feel like these are two different categories.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean,
Ah,
maybe I
okay.
could have
So,
said Jamaican or African or something. Yeah, maybe I just misspoke. Yeah.
okay, but so you accept that there are Polish people who are black. Just you don't have to be.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually met this girl. She was a bartender. She's half Egyptian, half Ghana, from I believe Ghana, and she was born here. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really cool.
So
But
she's
that's not
from
common.
here. Her parents are from.
Yeah, she's Polish. No, her parents are immigrants, but she was born here, so
So
she's
she's
Polish
Polish.
by
Yeah.
all means.
I think it's
Yeah,
also
but but sorry.
no. I
But
think
I just meant, I
it's
guess,
from.
from like a look standpoint. Sorry.
No, it's hard when you do it online. But I think it's also um, difference between Americans and Europeans, because you often describe, for example, yourself as Irish, even if you're like, for
Perfect.
example,
Yes, you're right.
grandparents are Irish.
Totally. Yeah,
So,
so let's talk about this actually. So this is why racism in the US is so weird, because I'm not just American. I'm Asian first and then I'm American. This is why America is so unique compared to all the other countries, is because America is a country founded by immigrants. So so we're all kind of like trying to coexist together, but there's no real social values that really link us all together. And you made a point earlier that is very important. You say that you can have kids in a new country if your parents are immigrants, and then they can equally adopt the countries of the new country and respect their roots. I'm speaking from personal experience, and I think a lot of people who are the children of immigrants feel this. It's not easy at all. And so on the first part, we feel lost because I'm not Chinese enough for my Chinese siblings, but I'm not American enough to be American. So we're kind of like lost in this halfway point, which is really, really awkward. But also, growing up, my parents would try to enforce certain values and lessons in the household, but I was learning completely something different from school, from media, from my babysitters, and that caused a lot of conflict in our household. A lot of the fights that I had with my parents were because America culture was teaching me, oh, you can talk back to your parents. They shouldn't treat you like that. My sister fucking called, what is it, Child Protection Services? No, she didn't call, but she said some shit to her teacher that my dad like spanked her. And then because of that, they called Child Protection Services to our house, and that caused a huge issue, right? But then in a lot of cultures, especially in the East, so like Africa, Middle Eastern cultures, Asian cultures, and I think Slavic cultures too, getting smacked by your parents or spanked or the belt or the klapki, right? It's kind of a natural part of how we grew up. So that's like one example. Another example is America's view on sex is completely different than the Chinese view on sex. America is extremely liberal. Chinese view is very strict. So how do you balance that as a teenager growing up, especially with social media, now that you're being fed all these different informations? It's very, very difficult. So that's why integration is really hard, because there's always like these half the like me. I think I'm first or second generation. I forgot what it's called. We're always in this kind of middle confused phase that we don't know exactly where we stand. You know what I'm saying? And then when it comes down to it, let's say China and America goes to war. I'm gonna be considered a bad, like the enemy from both sides. So that just makes things even more confusing. And then if I had to pick one, or else my family's gonna die, like which one do I align with, right?
Yeah,
It brings up a lot of different issues.
Have you heard maybe of a story of Tokyo Rose during a World War II? She was exactly that's exactly the case. Tokyo Rose was born in US, but then the Second World War started just
Yeah.
as she was visiting her grandparents in Japan. So she had to
Yeah.
stay in Japan because she couldn't come back. And she was in a very difficult position when she had to work for the government against America. That was her country
Exactly.
at this point. So she
same.
was called Tokyo Rose because I don't know if you heard this like radio program that was meant to discourage American soldiers on Japanese soil. Like she was recording these messages, and then they were in the radio, and they were like Japanese propaganda, and she was hired to do
Yeah.
that because she spoke English, but she was secretly wishing for Americans to win. So she was
To win,
sometimes
right.
like trying to
Yeah.
to sneak in some message of encouragement for American soldiers.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I agree with you that it's a very interesting and difficult position, but I really hope it's not going to happen during our lifetimes, like the Chinese-American War, because I don't think we would all
Right.
survive that. I don't think
Okay,
the planet would.
let's
No, it's
okay,
not.
let's say something hypothetical that's more related to you. What if Ukraine and Poland went to war? All the Ukrainians here, do you trust that they're gonna fight for Poland, or you think they're gonna leave and go fight for Ukraine?
It's
This is an interesting thing to talk about, right?
it's more in the hypothetical, because there is no reason to believe that would be a war between Ukraine and Poland. There are some reasonable
Why not?
assumptions.
Historically, there were events,
But
right?
right now,
that's
in
the main.
there were some events, like I think you know some of the historical
Massacre
issues.
of Stan. What is it? Massacre of Stan. What's his name?
Bowen, I
Stans?
think.
A big controversial figure between Ukraine and Poland, right? In Ukraine, he's like a war hero, and I saw a couple of his statues when I went to visit Ukraine. But then here in Poland, you guys view him as like a genocide guy.
Absolutely, there
Know
are
what I'm
some
talking
historical issues between. Oh, you mean Bandera? The chat asks.
Yes, that guy. That guy. Yes.
So absolutely, there are some historical issues, but I think between any country that is Poland's neighbor, there are some historical animosities
There is,
between
you're right.
us. But
You're
in
right,
our
you're
current reality, it's not possible. There would be a war between Ukraine and
Why not?
Poland. Well, so,
Okay.
like
Well,
geopolitical
what about Germany and
state of
Poland?
the world. No, we are both in the European Union and in NATO. So what? I don't see a possibility. No, we are also allies with Ukraine, and we are in NATO. So we are like against Russia, and Russia is a huge threat for us. So Ukraine is our more natural ally. I cannot imagine a reality and a possible reason for us to go to war with Ukraine. America and China are natural rivals, so that's a little bit more
That's true.
reasonable
probably
to
true.
assume they
Yeah.
would go to war. So let's
Right.
go to our next question.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that because politics for me, I don't know anything about politics. You're gonna destroy me on that for sure. So we can talk about that stuff.
Let's see if I'm gonna destroy you on the next question then.
Probably. Yeah. We'll see.
So, yeah, when we're on the topic of Ukraine, you said something that also pissed me off a little bit when you were like talking about Ukrainian girls. That they are all
yeah,
like
sure.
plastic and fake and look the same, and you prefer Polish girls that are more natural. And I just wanted to ask you if you see it as a successful strategy to maybe like suck up to Polish women by bashing Ukrainians.
Okay. I didn't frame it that way. I just said that there was a lot of girls around Zloty Tarasi that all look the same, and a lot of them are Ukrainians. I never said all the Ukrainian women are like
But
that.
why
because that's
why
not true.
even the suggestion?
And I never said that Polish women are not like that. I never did it to suck up Polish women, so that's not how I framed it. At all.
So why you did that?
But you asked, it was just an observation that I made. right? Like, I was Warsaw. It's in a new city. I noticed that in a big city, you're gonna have some big city people. And that's one of the common things, like the fake lips. That's more of a Russian Ukrainian thing than a Polish thing. True or false?
It's false because the Ukrainian girls tell the same about us. Some of the Ukrainian girls or guys say that Polish women are all filled with stuff in their face and with huge lips. So it's only based for me in
Okay.
stereotypes.
Maybe, but also just from what I've seen, I've met a lot of like really good. Nah, I don't want to say it like that. That sounds fucked up. But yeah, I knew you were gonna say something about that. But a lot of my maybe it's just the people that I'm hanging out with, right? A lot of my friends who they predominantly date Ukrainian girls, which for the reasons that you say they want to abuse their passport and their financial situation, that definitely exists, right? And they show me all these Ukrainian girls, and all of them look the same. And when it comes to like the lips and the boob job and stuff like that, I would say from my personal experience, from what I've seen, maybe like 6 to 7 times out of 10, they're speaking Ukrainian and they're Ukrainian. So, I didn't mean it to
Okay.
like suck it up to the Polish people. It was just a comment that I made. Maybe it was just distasteful,
Okay,
but
so you know,
I don't know.
I cannot like I don't know your true intentions and I have to believe you on that. So maybe I can
Sure,
just frame it as an advice for you because I know you said that you're actively looking for a girlfriend, right? So
sure,
just
yeah. Hmm.
from a woman's perspective, and not I think I'm not only speaking for myself but also my viewers, it just sounds like that. When you try to like critique some group of women and talk about their appearance, it just sounds like
Okay,
you're trying to compliment us at their
okay.
behalf.
Time
So
out, time out though. Did I say it in my video? Did I say it in a way where Polish women were better than Ukrainians, or was I simply making an observation that if a lot of girls look like this, and most of the time they're Ukrainian? Did I frame it as like something that I observed, or trying to suck up to the Polish people? This is a very clear distinction because I don't think it's fair when I thought I framed it in a way where I was just making an observation. Then you are attributing like an intent to me that I meant it this way when that's not. I don't think that's how I portrayed it, and that's not exactly what I said. So I wonder if it's like, do you have a problem with, uh, like, which is why I wanted to come on this conversation. It's like, did you have an issue with what I said, or kind of the image that you thought I was, and then you're finding every little small thing to like nitpick me about? Does that make sense?
I had a problem with the implication because it came across like you're implying something, and
Maybe to you, or maybe to other people, no, right? Like this stuff is kind of subjective. So, and you know this, like being a streamer yourself, how can you control for to say something in a way that everybody is gonna see in a positive light? It's
of
absolutely
course you
impossible.
cannot fully,
So, yeah, you
but you
can't do
need
it.
to balance that somehow. And like I said, if you would like, I think it's a valuable perspective to you from me as a Polish woman and from some Polish women in the chat that to some women you can come across as a douchebag when you like comment on a
Uh,
specific group's
yeah,
appearance. It
yeah. I mean,
can.
that's okay. Yeah,
I don't
that's
know if
okay.
you
I'm
care
I'm I'm cool with
because
that.
you might not care about how you come across to certain group of like Polish feminists. You might not care.
Well,
I just
sure. Well, but it's why would I care about what like people like? I don't know. It's just living in your life in a way where you're constantly worried about how things are going to come off and like what certain group of people are going to say. You can never live your life, right?
sure
I just
you
make
don't.
content, and then this is kind of my biggest strength and probably my biggest flaw as well. A lot of people admire, not admire, but like watch my content because I'm truly authentic about everything that I think, and that's for the good and for the bad. So I'll say things that are like truthful, and a lot of people are afraid to say, and people are happy that I said it. But then I'll also say things that rub a lot of people the wrong way, which is
Yeah.
probably why a lot of your viewers, and I saw the comments in the video you posted on YouTube, probably hate me so much. But that's okay, right? Like everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm not gonna sit here and say that your viewers are bad or your viewers are wrong. Everybody's gonna have their opinion, and that's cool. And I
Yeah, of
don't think
course.
that me or you should change your approach to things just because. Like, would you change your stream and the way you talk about stuff just because there's a bunch of angry red pillars out there that hate your content? Of course not, right?
Well, that's a complicated topic because I changed views somehow, sometimes because of how
Mm.
I was perceived. I mean, I just listen.
Mm.
Of course, it's very hard when you're an internet personality because people are shitting and nitpicking
I
all
know.
the time and shitting on you. But also,
Yeah.
I changed my views a couple of times because of what people told me on the internet, and they were strangers on the internet somehow. So of
Mm.
course, first of all, please don't read YouTube comments. It's never healthy.
Yeah.
It's the
It
most
never works. Oh, I
extreme
know.
of the critique, always.
Yeah. I
But
know. Because it's
also,
anonymous.
it's anonymous,
Yeah.
and also, if you decide to write a comment on YouTube, you have to have very strong emotions that lead you to it. Like a regular person that doesn't have very strong emotions about the topic won't bother to comment on YouTube.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but
Yeah.
still, I like I said, you don't have to be like concerned about how you come across to a certain group of people like us here. But maybe if you're, it can be a lesson if you want you to
Yeah.
know to appeal to
But then,
Polish
but
girls. I don't
Sure.
think it,
But that's not
Mhm,
what. But that's not my goal, right? I'm
mhm.
not trying to appeal to Polish girls. I'm just trying to make content that I find is interesting. It circles back to the whole entire like the point of this conversation. You were calling me passport bros. That I'm just trying to cater to Polish girls. But I'm like, but that's not my intention. I genuinely love this country because I think Poland is like the perfect balance of freedom and rules. And I think your language also reflects that. And maybe we could talk about that, how language affects like the culture of a society. I really like how as there's a mutual understanding of respect here in this culture and personal space. I really admire the Polish people's resilience because you guys have a very hectic history to say the least. And when you guys weren't a country anymore, the language still survived after 120 years. I think that's incredible. I admire how protective you guys are of your families, of your culture, of your people, of your language. And I'm just very thankful for the opportunity to be here in Poland because ever since I moved here, my life has completely changed for the better. So I try to show that off in my content. And then sometimes I talk about girls, and sometimes it does come off as pick me. But
And
that's not the main
the
intention of my
pick me
content.
stuff
So,
was not even about girls. It was just about being a pick me immigrant. Like you're trying to, be the best
ah,
immigrant you can. Which is, I'm glad you're
okay.
having a good time here, and I'm so glad that you like Poland and you're
Sure.
feeling good here.
Sure.
But I'm glad you mentioned like being protective of our culture, because I remember another thing you said in your video, and it was
Mm.
like you were trying to respond to the accusation that Polish people are racist. And you said that Polish people are
Oh,
not
yeah.
aggressively racist, they're just protective of their culture. So I wanted for you to maybe explain what you meant by being protective of our culture and how it relates to
Yeah.
racism.
I think every person, especially like men in almost every culture around the world, have this instinct to uh, protect your family and what's yours, and to see outsiders as hostile. Right. This is one of the problems I have when people say we need to get rid of racism, but I'm like, that's an impossible. You're chasing a ghost because racism is a natural part of our biology, it's deep inside in all of us. And racism is not just about race, it's about culture and it's about differences. You see how people get so crazy about fucking football teams. People fight and kill each other over their fucking football teams. That's so dumb to me, but that shows you that there's this tribal part in all of us for something as fucking so stupid as football, right? And
I have to disagree with you on this because we have a lot of like fucked up parts of our brain that evolved to be like that or like that, but we as a society we evolved to overcome it. Like our culture like improved. There are so many ways, there are so many like shades of bigotry that we are able to
sure, sure, sure.
overcome as a society. And so I think
But
racist is
yeah,
just another one of them, and we are battling.
but, but
We are
but they serve a
pretty.
purpose. But it serves a purpose, right? So let me ask you a question, right? When Christopher Columbus first came to the Americas,
Oh God.
if the indigenous people were racist, it would have fought off those people, but they weren't. They welcomed them, and then Christopher, who was a foreigner, in turn came and destroyed all the people. So there's a lot of historical examples
But do
where
you think
people
he
were
did
friendly
that
and
because?
welcomed immigrants.
But he didn't do that because he was white. So sure, they should fought him off, but not because he's white, but because he's a
Yeah, you're right.
like
But
he's a
it's because it's a
colonial
different
power.
culture. It's a different culture. It's a different people. And you're not sure of their intentions. This is the tricky part about the men, the world of men that I think a lot of girls don't understand. It's
Oh
like there's
yes,
always
please
a
tell
low
me.
level threat. Okay, there's always a low level threat of violence between all men, and I don't think women in general feel that same threat of violence, right? Especially here in Poland. Like here, something I like about the country is that the men tend to stand up for the women, and you can never hit women here. But if you're a guy and you say something disrespectful, you're gonna get checked right away by like the other guy and the group of stuff. So that's kind of what keeps us in line, right? Because deep down, there's this masculine tendency to conquer and to, what's the word? Maybe do battle. That's why guys, we love UFC. That's why we love Call of Duty, Fortnite. It taps into this part of us that like to conquer other people and this competitiveness of like, I'm the alpha, you're the alpha, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I think that deep down that exists in all men, or maybe almost all men. I don't know about all, but I think that's like a masculine urge that I don't think girls can understand.
How how did we end up here from the question of what being protective of your culture means?
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. So being protective of your culture. So if it's me, I'm a group of men. It's our job. If we were to go to war, we have to protect this country, right? We see this group of outsiders coming in. We don't know what their intentions are. They could be nice. They can say all of these things, but there's also the possibility that they come and they destroy the country. They give us fucking smallpox. They come and they rape all of our women, right? We
Do you
have to do this like probability thing in our head of like, okay, are these foreigners good or are these foreigners bad? You know what I'm saying?
do you think it's a current reality that we live in, that people that are coming to our country and their color, they have the different color skin, their intentions can be to conquer us and destroy us and rape us? Do you really believe that?
In the UK right now, there are a lot of Pakistani rape gangs, are there not?
No, I don't think so.
We can look it up right now. If you want to look it up on
Yeah, I
stream, just
believe
look up
there are
Pakistani rape gang.
some, but the rape is an
Right,
issue
right.
that
Okay, yeah. Okay,
goes
so
far
this is
beyond
perfect. This is
culture.
a perfect example. So I'm not saying that all of them are bad, right? But if you let some in and they hurt, okay, let's say like you let some of these people from, let's say Pakistan. I'm not
How
picking on
many
Pakistan,
Polish
but
men
let's just say their
raped
example.
women in UK? Do you even know that?
Is that possible? I'm sure that happens. I don't
Yeah.
know. Do you know the stats?
No, I don't. But I'm sure there are some I'm sure of
Sure.
it. There
You're
are
right.
some
Wait,
Polish men.
yeah, and there's some Polish men that rape here, right? But then the problem is like if you let in outsiders and then the outsiders do it to your women, as someone who represents and is supposed to protect your community, how are you gonna feel? You're gonna be like, what the fuck?
I'm
Why are
gonna
those people
feel
doing that?
the same
And then
as I feel about any other rape, that it should be punished and not allowed. And
You're right. You're right.
but we are talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
intentions. Do you think that anyone comes to this country with an intention to destroy it and rape women?
I don't think all, but I definitely think some. There's a lot of bad people out there. There's a lot of bad. For
Some
example,
people
I
come
mean,
here to
in the
destroy
U.S.
our country.
Yeah, the U.S. is a good example of that. So in this influx of the last 4 years, we had, I think, 10 to 20 million immigrants come through the channels. And I know a couple of friends that migrated to the U.S. illegally, actually. And through that, because it was heavily unchecked, there are a lot of Venezuelan gangs that went into the country. So yes, there are some. And you're right, it's definitely not the majority. I think the majority of immigrants are going somewhere to look for a better life. But if as someone like, as I'm trying to protect my family, and then I let an outsider, a guest, into my home, and then I find out, let's say, okay, let's say I find a homeless guy on the street, and I want to take care of his life, and I'm like, all right, come in, you can stay with me. And then I find out he rapes my daughter. Oh my God, how am I gonna feel as a man? I'm gonna feel like I failed my family. And then what usually happens is that, oh, let's say he was a black guy. When men are led by anger, a lot of bad shit happens. We can agree on that. Oh my God, I knew Nigerians are all like this. You're like this. Fuck those guys. And then that's how kind of racism
Would you
starts,
be like
right?
that?
So I think that's what's up?
Would you be like that if somebody raped your daughter? It's a horrible assumption. You would blame all of the people from the same country, all of the people of the
No,
same
I would
origin?
not.
So
I
you're a
personally would
bit,
not.
it's
But
bad,
historically, this is what happens. And that's what I'm
but it
saying.
doesn't
I'm
have
just
to
making an
happen.
observation about human nature.
It doesn't have to
But
happen.
I agree. It doesn't have to happen, but it
Yeah,
has happened, and
so
it
let's
always
not do
happens.
this.
And
Let's
it
just not
happens
do
everywhere in
this.
the world.
But let's stop.
But then,
We can be the ones to make the change and stop this. Stop this assumption that
how
if
do you
somebody commits a crime, it's in its inherent nature of their nation to do that. Because, like you said, most of the immigrants just want a better life, and then there's some gangs and some crime. Exactly like in every other group, in every other society. So this assumption
Right.
that there are some groups that are intentionally plotting to destroy the country by immigration, that's absurd, and that's the conspiracy theory. So
Do you know that Venezuela is safer now than it was 3 years ago because they emptied out their prisons into the U.S.?
what?
You can look it up
No.
right now. Look it up right now.
Where
That's
should
why
I
there's
look?
all these gangs going to.
Where should I look,
Look
this
up.
was?
Okay. Venezuelan safety. Venezuela safety over the years. Venezuela. Actually, okay, I might have misspoke. I need to do more research on that. I apologize. That's my fault.
No problem. I think we can move on to. I think I just have one more question that relates to the videos I watched of you. So
Sure.
I can, yeah, I think that's actually the main thing that that even like inspired me to watch your videos. The video about the guy trashing Poland, like CB Alto, right?
Yep, sure. Yeah.
First of all, I think we can both agree that making like rage bait content on street interviews, interviewing young drunk people on the streets, that's predatory, and that's generally not very creative. That's shitty content, right? But then
Yeah.
I also see this assumption that like showing drunk girls making horny jokes is a bad look for Poland. So I just wanted to ask you, why do you really think why should anyone care about Polish girls and how many people they sleep with, what is their skin color? Like, why is it a bad look? It's just a young girl having fun on the street.
Because a lot of the guys that are watching his videos are purposely looking for easy girls to prey on. And he's feeding into that. And he knows it because I know him personally. And he doesn't care really about Poland. So like, it's one thing if a Polish guy does it. But if a foreigner, you're a guest in this country and you're doing this just for clicks, just for clout, I think it's extremely fucked up. There's nothing wrong with women expressing their preferences and all that stuff. But I know this guy purposely goes out there to have girls say the craziest stuff, the sluttiest stuff, and paints them in a bad light, but he benefits off of the clout. That, I think, is wrong. And he did that to me. When I called him out on it, on his channel, he took a bunch of shit from my videos, placed it in a way that completely misrepresented what I was saying, and then tried to paint me as like a bad guy. So this is what he does.
Yeah,
he like takes the worst of other people and he does it. Yeah, right. And he does it. He tries to destroy other people's reputation so he can gain more clout. Don't you think that's wrong too? I think that's fucking terrible.
He's a shitty guy. I agree totally on that. Just your personal opinion. Is there something wrong about being a slutty woman? No. Okay, that's.
But I think, yeah, I have no problem with that. But the problem I do have is like, if you're a slut, own it. What a lot of girls like to do is that they were a slut before, and then now they're like, no, don't forget about my past. I was never like that. No, now I'm changed. Now I'm different. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to believe anymore. Like your past and your actions say one thing, but now you're completely changed, and you're like, that's not you anymore. I think like that's why I kind of respect OnlyFans girls and porn stars, because I'm like, they know what they signed up for. They're out there and they're sluts, but they're not trying to be something that they're not. Right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you can have like preferences when it comes to like your partner about like you can feel uncomfortable with their I don't know sexual past. I think it's nobody's business but the two people that are in a
Yeah,
relationship.
I agree.
I was just wondering because when you said that it's a bad look for Poland, showing those drunk slutty girls, I assumed that you are like catering to the passport bros who are coming here to find their trad wife, and it's a bad look for
Yeah.
Polish women. So I'm glad you. I
Well,
think you explained that
yeah,
it
yeah.
was not your what you meant by that.
Well,
It was
would you want a foreigner to come into your country and show all Polish women as sluts? Would you be okay with that?
yeah. I think I wouldn't care to be honest, but I don't think he does
Oh,
that.
oh.
He just shows some drunk girls. I don't think he shows that
Hmm.
all Polish women are this or that. But if somebody makes that assumption, I don't care.
Have you read the comments? Have you read the comments? You should see the
Oh
comments
God,
on some of
no,
that stuff.
no, I don't want
Calling
to.
you guys
I
snow bunnies, snow Latinas, people saying that Polish girls are the easiest in all of Europe, that kind of stuff.
okay.
That's what comes with this kind of content, right?
So what if
And
they
I
are?
like,
So what if the Polish girls are easy? They're having a lot of sex. How is that bad?
okay, well, I would argue that sure, there are some girls that are okay with it, but there's a lot of Polish girls that hate that and hate being portrayed as sluts. Because if you're portrayed as sluts to the world, then men will treat you as sluts. And you like a lot of
I
feminists talk about, oh, we need to,
I don't think we should
we
treat
need to treat
sluts
women in respect.
badly. I think we should treat sluts like respect with the same amount of respect. Just that's my case. I know it's unpopular because we live in a very conservative society, and I agree that a lot of women don't want to be seen as sluts, but that's
Sure,
because
yeah.
society treats them bad. Society thinks less
You
of
think it?
them, and I
You
don't
think
think
it's
we
a
should.
coincidence that you think it's a coincidence that every culture in literally the history of man until maybe the last 60 or 70 years have all had the same opinion about female promiscuity? Do you think
It,
that's a coincidence?
no, it's just not true. I think it's just not true. There were societies and communities and cultures that were very much less conservative on female bodies and female sexuality. Definitely, it's not
Oh, that
like
might be,
an
yeah, that's
it's not a
true.
modern thing. Of course,
How
there's
many? What would be the
not a lot.
percentage?
Of course,
I would be
that's
really curious about
of
that.
course there's not a lot, but there are. But also,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I don't
go
think
ahead.
it's a
Uh,
coincidence. I think it's patriarchy.
Could it be biological by any chance?
A lot of
Like
stuff
let's
a lot of
yeah,
stuff
go
is
ahead. Go
based
ahead.
in evolutionary psychology, but not everything.
Mhm.
And basically, we can guess which parts of our culture are rooted in our like evolutionary uh, adaptations, but uh, but culture overcomes and had already overcome so many of those that I think we
Okay.
don't have to stop here, and we can keep evolving
That's
and
fair.
better
And I think the
ourselves.
good example of that is like people's views on LGBT.
Hmm.
Like almost everywhere around the world, our generation and below, they don't care about the LGBT that much. And I
Hmm.
think that's a overall win actually, because I think gay people, they are regular people like anyone else. Like it to me, it's fucked up when people like, oh, try to control who other people date, and that shit is just weird to me.
Yeah, sorry,
Ah,
my
yeah.
camera froze. I have to change the battery in my
Oh,
camera. I will be back in a second.
okay, cool. Uh-oh. So it's just me and your your chat. You're
Oh,
probably freaking roasted me right now.
well, you knew
Everybody.
you knew what you signed up for, and you know how it's
Yeah.
like life.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I appreciate that you like had the courage to do this. You knew how my viewers like feel, so you knew it's gonna be confrontational, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they may not agree with you and may be angry even at you, but still you
Yeah.
decided to do this, and I appreciate it. Even though we still definitely have some different
Yeah.
views and
Yeah, but I think we're friends, right? Like you and I, this conversation was so enjoyable. I feel like we laughed a lot and there was a lot of jokes and I mean, that's the point of it. Yeah,
I
yeah. And you had some good zingers at me for sure. Like you roasted me pretty good. I can't even lie.
yeah, I glad you feel that way. Well, we had a funny conversation with Danny about like the word friends, and I think as you learn Polish, you will
Yes.
also like see how
Kolega,
people, yeah,
przyjaciel.
how
Yeah,
people react. And yeah, Americans only have this one word. Maybe you have
yeah.
some like
That's what.
colleagues and acquaintances, but
Yeah, but this is why English is such a limited language, and and that's why Americans, I believe, have the most closed mind of all the people because geographically we're isolated from everybody. We've never really experienced war conflict, and English is a very like there's so many dumb exceptions, but grammatically and the way to express yourself, it's very limited. That's why it's hard for English speakers learning Polish because your language is so expressive. It's ridiculously expressive. You have a word for everything. Yeah, and for every verb, there are two versions, and then the past tense and the future tense are fucking gendered.
no, that's
Why are there so many rules?
To be honest with you, I would never learn Polish if it wasn't my native language. It's absurd how many like conjugations you have to learn. So I appreciate you for that, and it might be a slight oversimplification to say that about all English speaking people, but definitely there are some interesting like studies about how language affects the way you think. That's a whole different topic. And yeah, I think I'm gonna let you go now. I'm sure that was stressful and
No, not at all.
challenging
Not
for
at all.
you.
I would
No?
love to be back on the future, and then if you're open to it too, I would actually love to have you on my channel, and then we can react to maybe a couple videos together. I think the back and forth with our different points would be very interesting. So
That
you're
was
always welcome. Kasper, you're always
definitely
welcome.
a very interesting conversation, and thank you so much for agreeing. And we'll keep in touch.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Wes. Goodbye.
I know a lot of your haters hate me, but it's okay. A lot of your viewers, but it's okay. I love you guys. It's all good.
Bye. Okej, kochani. Co mi powiecie? Zmęczeni? Sfrustrowani? Mam nadzieję, że dostarczyłam wam, że to było przynajmniej interesujące dla was. Jakby wiecie, że nie jestem dobra w konfrontację, tak? Mówiłam wam o tym kilka razy, więc myślę, że jak na to chyba poszło mi nieźle. To co, Frenemies podcast? Kasia, być jak moi ludzie skontaktują się z pana ludźmi. O, jesteście śmieszni. O. Znaczy co, Wilcza jest śmieszna. A reszta też w sumie. Jestem zadowolona z tego, w jakie strony poszła ta rozmowa, bo myślę, że odkryliśmy kilka kolejnych ciekawych warstw przy okazji poruszania tych rzeczy, które już poruszaliśmy przy okazji omawiania jego filmu. Podcast zgrzyt, ale faktycznie jest zgrzyt. Zrób podsumowanie. Kurde, jak podsumować tę rozmowę? To jest bardzo ciekawe, bo mam wrażenie, że Wes podszedł do niej z takim założeniem, że tak naprawdę wiele z jego przekonań ja źle zrozumiałam albo wyolbrzymiłam. I że tak naprawdę to my się w większości rzeczy zgadzamy, tylko ja po prostu zrobiłam wnioski bezpodstawne na jego temat, ze względu na jakieś tam uprzedzenia i że tak naprawdę się dogadamy. I myślę, że te rzeczy, pytania, które dotyczyły jego filmów, w większości faktycznie próbował mi udowodnić, że on wcale nie myśli tak, jak ja myślę, że on myśli. Ale potem, kiedy schodziliśmy na tematy, których się nie spodziewał, tak jak z Wenezuelą na przykład wyskakiwał, to okazywało się, że na pewne rzeczy ma dużo bardziej skrajne poglądy, niż nawet sama zakładałam.